Tonight's speaker, Michael Kublin, who's the president and founder of PeopleTek Coaching. Mike is a veteran of American Express, and he founded PeopleTek Coaching in 1996, which is a leadership development company specializing in helping leaders, teams, and organizations achieve full potential. PeopleTek's vision is worldwide individual, team, and organizational excellence. Mike specializes in enabling leaders, professionals, and their teams examine values, beliefs, and behaviors to identify obstacles and determine what is and is not effective in achieving desired results. Mike is author and creator of the Leadership Journey program, which is a 12-session coaching process for emerging leaders, said to be the real diversity and inclusion program. By examining leadership strengths, leveraging preferred styles, and removing fear from leadership, organizational growth occurs and results improve. Mike's clients include global leaders such as American Express, IBM, Gannett, and Merrill Lynch, as well as small to mid-sized companies. Mike's topic tonight is leadership as a process, not an event, as you can see on the screen. All leaders both require and provide direction. The session introduces the leadership compass, which is used to guide leadership skills and ability. So join me in welcoming Mike to our event.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And also, thank you for taking your time, your energy, your effort and emotion to be here and to be on the call, on the streaming video. This is an exciting topic for me. Leadership is a process, not an event. And I'm really excited because of the audience I'm speaking to tonight. I was telling Phil that back at American Express in the mid-'80s, I was one of the original Quality Circle leaders, okay, for the American Express Quality Leadership Program. So I was talking with one of the other executive coaches, Pat Panera, and we were laughing about it because we said it's true. And who better than a group of quality experts to give this particular talk to? I've been doing a radio program for the last 8 months or so, and it's got this title. It's on AM and FM radio, and you can listen to it, but it's called Leadership as a Process, Not an Event, because our belief at PeopleTek has been, will be, and always will be that leadership is a process, not an event, which means that a lot of people believe you could read a book or you go to one program, you get a leadership trainer or a leadership coach for a couple of weeks, a month, and then it stops. We're done. Well, leadership, just like the processes that you work with in terms of every organization that you're in, and I know there's some people that specialize in hospitals here, there's manufacturing, there's packaging, we have experts in all these arenas. Well, just like there are experts in those arenas, there are people that are managing all those processes. Well, those processes, as you all know, because of the disciplines that you're certified in, have to get better over time. Why would we not think that our people skills need to get better over time? And they're complicated. I've been working on my leadership skills, and some of my people will probably say that I haven't made much progress. No, I'm kidding. They'll say I've made progress, but it's a work in progress. Because again, I haven't met a person on the planet yet that doesn't have strengths and doesn't have an Achilles heel. Every single person is a leader, no matter what your title is, no matter what your position is, no matter what your role is. Every person thinks they're a leader, but they are. And you can prove it because of the behavior that they have in terms of how they show up. They could either show up very passively and not as assertively as they need to, or they could be too aggressive and too assertive and need to back off a little bit, need to tone down a little bit. But each one of us on the planet has these strengths that are so powerful. And at PeopleTek, we call it magic dust. Well, that magic dust, and it's not something you smoke or anything. What it is a special skills, abilities, and talent that each of you have, but everyone in the world has it. It's different for every single person. No one's better than anyone else. You could be better at a certain role, but they're better at other things than you are. So the issue is, how do we get that to magnify? How do we honor the specialness of each individual? How do we learn to tap into that and help people become the best that they can be? People know, especially in this room, that people are leaving in droves, company after company. Well, why? What is the process issue that's not right? Now, maybe the process issue is right, and they're supposed to, but the issue is we need to know what it is. We need to get into the hearts, minds, and souls of everybody that works in our organizations. And how do we do that? Well, I'm going to give you some tools that we use that are going to help you. Are they all the tools? No, because it's a process, not an event. So there's many tools that go behind each area of these 12 points of the compass. I'm going to give you some of them tonight, and I hope my goal is that you take away and implement one thing that you hear tonight that you're going to implement tomorrow. That's the agreement that I've left. So without further ado, we'll start. And I know I have to stay within this circle. The objectives. So we want to learn why leadership is a process, not an event. So we're going to talk about that a lot during this process today. We want to obtain a baseline. Phil sent out to everybody a sheet that has the compass on it. And on the opposite side of that sheet is a measuring. It's a little measurement. It's a little assessment that you can take where you can rate. How do you see yourself in each one of these areas? So in other words, if you look at the other side of the compass, and there's questions that you would rate for yourself and take a self-assessment. You don't have to do that right this second, but I do want you to rate yourself in these areas. Where do you see yourself in terms of self-awareness? What areas could you get better at? In terms of your vision, mission, goals, and measures and objectives and how you're measuring, where do you see yourself in terms of having a vision, mission, goals? Not only as an individual, not only for the teams that you lead, but also for the people you lead. Do they have their vision, mission, goals? So when you're rating these things, I want you to think not only about yourself, but I also want to think about your peers, the people you lead, the organizations you're part of, and determine where you're at and where they're at in each one of these areas, and give yourself an assessment. We want to begin to implement one change today, one thing that we're going to communicate not only to ourselves, but to others differently. We want to identify some tools and processes that can help us. I'll talk about some of the tools tonight. There are assessments. There are many assessments. Has anybody here ever done a 360-degree feedback process? Several. Good, good. And I hope the experience was good, because they could either be set up really well or they could be set up not so well. And again, that's a process. How do we get better and better at it? We want to begin to implement 1 to 2 changes immediately. Okay, so I have that agreement already. I'm gonna continue. I always like to start with this picture. I like to start with this picture because it's a picture of my father, Big Al. He's here, right here, and he's surrounded by my mom, my brother, my son, okay, Gene, and my nephew, okay? And so I want to talk about my dad for a second. Why? Because in 2002, he was leaving a University of Miami basketball game, driving out, and they got hit by a bus. And he was ejected from the car, and he lost an arm and lost a leg and became paralyzed from C3 down. Very tragic accident, but he's 93 years old now. And just before his 90th birthday, before COVID and everything, right? We had a celebration of his 90th birthday. And I said to him right before that birthday, I said, Dad, tell me, how do you do it? How do you remain so positive and so focused on creating happiness wherever you go? How do you do it? And you've lived like this many, many years. How do you keep such an attitude? He goes, Mike, it's very simple. I go, well, give me the secret. What is it? He goes, I made a decision. What are you talking about? I said, is that a spiritual thing? He goes, no, I made a decision. I decided that nothing was going to get in the way of how I treat people, how I treat other people that come in contact with me, how I'm going to show up as a person. And to me, that I've been teaching leadership for 25 years. The people that make the decision to be better, to be the best that they can be, to be great at what they do, go transcending farther, faster, and are able to overcome anything. Why? Because they've decided it's not going to be outside factors that influence how they show up. It's not going to be the bosses of the bosses, the people that work for them, the customers, the process issues. It's not going to be any of those things. It's going to be how they decide to handle it. And I've seen thousands of graduates go through our leadership program, and I finally, after speaking to my dad, figured out what the differentiator is. So everybody needs here to make a decision. What is it you want? What is it you want out of your career? What is it you want out of life? What is it you want to do in terms of each one of these focus areas? What is it that you want to do to show up to be the best that you could be? So we're going to do an icebreaker. And the icebreaker is, you've got, what we're going to do, Phyllis, go one for, okay. For the people that are remote, you're going to look at this list. And it's a list of words. And I want you remotely to just pick out the top 4 words that are most like you. So you guys all get a chance at home to do that. And here we have actual cards. So I put cards in front of each person. What I want you to do is look at these cards and pick out the word that's most like you. And people at home, you pick out the word that's most like you. So let's take a few minutes and do that. So now what I want you to do here in the room is to go around and negotiate with other people and maybe make a switch if you want to. You don't have to. You can keep the one that you have. If you like it best, you can keep that one, but you could also barter with you and say, I'll trade with you, and bring the cards. And at home, out of the 4 words you picked, I want you to pick the one word that you think is most like you. Okay? Thanks. If you see anything you like, yes. And you can negotiate with them. We're having some trading going on over here. Yeah, there's some negotiations.
I'm willing to part with that. This, yeah. Such a sociopath or sociopath?
All right. I'll shoot on this one. Anybody like this one? Steve? All right. Everybody at home got one? The word that's most like you? Everybody here. Now I want anybody that has a green to come stand here. Green. If you've got a green, come here. Okay, but is that the one that's most like you? Yes. Okay. Anyone that's good, but you only should have one card. You got a blue? Okay. All right. I need the reds. Red, most like you. And then we have blues. Blues?
I have a blue.
All right. So here's what we got. All right. At home, if you had, you won't know, but if you had anything that's enthusiastic, takes risks, visionary, motivator, energetic, okay, then you're going to be a green. If you're very verbal and promoter friendly, you're going to be a red. If you have like team player, patient, nurturing, thoughtful, sympathetic, you're going to be a blue. And then the yellows are very cautious, very analytical. What are some other words you have? Systematic and high standards. All right. Now, we had a lot of arguments. Why? Because we're all unique. We all have blends of all these. But the dominants, the Ds, usually are very goal-oriented, like to get things done, like to accomplish tasks, like to make sure it's finished, make sure it's complete and wrapped up. The reds They like people. They like to socialize and they like people. No? Not true? Okay, you got 2 yellows and a blue, but you needed 1 card that's most like you. So these are the influencers. They usually do it through people. They like to work through people, and they generally like to build trust with them and like to, motivate, inspire, and have people be involved. Phil is the only blue in the group. And Phil, what was your word?
Team player.
Team player. They're very patient, very loyal. They get things done steadily. They move steady towards a task, accomplishing things. And what about the yellows? Systematic, very, very precise. They like precision. They like things get done in a very analytical, precise way. And they like things to be nice and neat and process math. Now, all of you probably have that component because you're process orientation. However, we tend to pick the one that's most like us. Now, this is a very brief sample of a much larger. How many people have done a disc? Have you ever done a disc?
Yeah.
So what happens is it's not a bad thing because we have all of this input for all of our people. We like to do the more complicated instruments like Hogan, disc, Myers-Briggs. There's many, many assessments. There's no perfect one. That's why in our program we do 5 of them. The issue is it's a bit of information. If you add up all the information, you get a picture. And that picture can be looked at and said, this is really how I show up. The issue is it's fine up until we overuse our strength. If a goal-oriented person who's decisive becomes so decisive that they're getting in the way of everybody else making decisions, then they're dominating everybody. So their awareness needs to be tweaked a little bit that they're not going to overuse that strength. Likewise, if the people orientation motivators and trusters end up becoming so trusting, so people oriented that they don't push back a little bit, get a little bit more. I've got to force the issue here. I can't be so popular. Okay. If they don't do that, then they might be holding people accountable enough. If Phil becomes too much of a team, I'm team, and doesn't stand up for himself because he's very patient, very loyal, very caring, he might be getting a ton of things done, but making himself crazy. Okay. And then with the critical thinking and the conscientiousness, if you're so systematic and so precise and so into the details, you may not be open enough to move forward because everything's got to be perfect before you move. So we all have strengths. We all have an Achilles heel. The issue is, do we know what it is? And so you guys everybody can sit down. Thank you for being patient on the audience online. Okay, so I don't know how many people have heard about the Johari window. Joseph Luft, Harry Ingram got together, created a way in which we can see ourselves and others can see us. And if you look at these intersections, we have these intersections of information that's known to self and not known to self, and known to others and not known to others. And these different intersections, there's 4 intersections, tell a story. And it's all built on trust. Some people approach trust, they trust all the time. Some people approach trust, they trust none of the time. And we're all different from each other as night and day. And there's no right or wrong. And we don't need to judge anybody as right or wrong. We just need to know where we're at. Are we more trusting towards others, or do we hold back and wait until we have evidence? There's no right or wrong, good or bad, and we're different for every person, every group, and every transaction. The issue is, do we know what we are? Now, the info that's known to self and known to others, that's our open self. And you as leaders in this room, leading quality organizations and process, can be a role model for the rest of the company in terms of sharing what you see. To be your open self. Now, you got to do it in a healthy, honoring, and respectful manner. You got to do it the right way. However, you got to do it. And we know that effective leaders, for sure, are able to increase their open self by being more vulnerable. They're able to share of themselves. and share with others. They have to be a little bit okay that they can have an issue. And we know the best leaders in the world are able to do that and not be afraid that there's an issue. And they create a culture like that, that the culture isn't worried that there can be an issue or not. Because if you're hiding issues, you guys know in quality, if you hide issues, what's going to happen? Exactly. We've had leadership journeys where we've customized them and running companies, and people have said, I've been hiding that for months. I've been hiding, I wouldn't open up. Well, why would you open up? I was afraid of the reaction that I was going to get. Well, those folks would need to learn as an organization, how do we become more open with each other, more trusting? Now, there's info that's known to self, but not known to others. It's our hidden self. And let's face it, as much as I know you guys, I may not share everything until I know you on a deeper basis. But we know the best leaders in the world are creating trusted organizations to reduce the hidden self, to make the hidden self smaller, to make the hidden issues smaller, so that again, the organization is more trusting of each other. And again, it needs to be done in a healthy, honoring manner. So that's a process in and of itself. How do you do that? Well, it begins with you. People are going to follow the way you lead. Just like my dad, who made a decision, he's going to show up a certain way. You as leaders, and me as a leader, need to show up in the way that we want most our people to show up. If we don't do it, they're not going to do it. So what we have to do is reduce what we're hiding, become a little bit more vulnerable, reduce the hidden self, expand the open self. Now there's an area here, not known to self, but known to others, and 360-degree feedback, the 5 assessments that we do, everything that you can do with peer information reduces the blind self. You guys know as experts, for sure, searching for things that people don't know, that they can't see. You have all the techniques, being the different certifications that you have in quality and opening up. You're reducing their blind self. The issue is we all have blind selves. When I got into this profession back when, they said, Mike, you're a visionary, you're motivating, you're inspiring, you're good with relationships, but you're wishy-washy. You don't hold anybody accountable to behavior. Well, that punched me hard. I didn't know what to do with it right away. I found a coach. They didn't call them coaches back in the 80s, but I found a consultant that worked with teams, and she showed me where my behavior was creating those perceptions. That was a blind spot. And where does it come from? It comes from your strengths. So, and I haven't met a person on the planet at any age that doesn't have strengths and doesn't have a blind spot. At any age, any position, any role, any title, no matter how much money they make, I haven't found them yet. Now, the issue is, will they be open to learning about the blind spots? In the effective organizations, they're able to reduce this blind area. They can reduce it, make it smaller. Why? Because they're creating more of a trusted organization. That is a process to do that. And my vote is that it starts with you. Why? Quality. You're all in charge of the quality of the organization. Who sees it? This group. Now, granted, there are reasons why things happen a certain way. Diego and I were chatting about it earlier. Sometimes there are valid reasons why things go in a direction, but that's fine as long as you're talking about it. So that's the blind self. Then there's the unknown self. They say that's where true creativity lies. It's the study of thinking, feeling, believing, going and exploring places that you've never explored before, empowering yourself as leaders to go where the organization has never gone before, being creative and innovative. And that's in the unknown quadrant. But you got to have all these working before you can get to that, because otherwise people don't trust what's going on. And then you get a lot of talking behind each other's backs, and you know what happens then. We all have been there. There's a formula that we use as part of the journey. It's called vision, mission, goals, and measures equal behavior. Your vision is your dream or your aspiration. As an organization, we need to have it, but we also need to have it as individuals. Each individual needs to have, where am I going? Where's my career? What do I want to do? What is my strategy for getting there? What are the top 3 goals that I'm going to live by to get me there? How am I going to measure whether or not I'm making progress to it? And what values am I living by to help myself get there? And so how do I align myself to those behaviors that live those values? And the more in congruence we are with all of that, the better we're going to have like our jobs, the better we're going to like our roles, the more satisfaction we're going to get out of being engaged and transforming the companies that we work for with. So I encourage you, if you do not have a vision, mission, goals, and measures document, to begin to work on one. There is processes, obviously, to create them. I like the one-page business by Jim Horan, Horan. And Jim has a series of these books that are geared to the discipline that you're in. If you're in finance, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in corporate America, if you're in different units, he has one that's created for you. You can pick out the one that's most likely to work for you. Again, it's called the one-page business plan. I highly recommend. The key thing is though, once you create it, is to have behaviors that live to it. Because you can say anything you want. You guys all know, we all work with companies. They say one thing and do another thing. And what message is that going to send? It sends an integrity issue because your beliefs and values and behaviors aren't linked up to what you're saying in the formula. So the symbols to help us remember this formula, I like to use a telescope, because a telescope picks out something that's way, 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 way out there. It's our dream, our aspiration. It's very personal. It's almost impossible, and it lives on. It's eternal. That's our vision. The binoculars bring that dream and make it closer and more personal to us. And it's what I call our mission. It's what we're going to do and how we're going to do it to live that dream. We need to have one so that we can make sure we're linked up to the organization we're leading. Then we have to have eyeglasses. I like to use a symbol of eyeglasses. Why? Because those are our goals. And they need to be 100% applicable and specific to us. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Yes, that's great, but they have to be ours. You can't cut and paste them from others. I've seen that done in organizations. I'm cutting and pasting. My boss is going, what do they mean? I don't know. And I don't mean to make fun of it, because at least I guess it's better than having nothing. But again, that's a process and if they're 100% yours, then you own them. You're accountable to them. And then a tape measure, so we measure whether or not we're making progress. And then all of this needs to link to our behavior, day-to-day basis, on a month-to-month basis, on a year-to-year. What values are we living by? How are we showing up? Communication styles. We use the DISC instrument. We did a really quick DISC earlier tonight, where you picked out the word that was supposed to, that's really very, very basic. We would want to do the entire DISC, let you answer. It takes about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to answer all the questions. You get a nice report, 20-something, 30-something pages. It tells all about you. And then it tells how do I deal with this person? How do I deal with that word? It's customized to you. So we had a lot of arguing going on in here. I want that word. No, I want that word. No, I want that word. Well, you don't have to do that when you're doing the assessments, because you're doing it alone. So we want to communicate in the other person's style, so that we're speaking in their language. So if they're very analytical and detailing, very specific oriented, we want to give them information in that way. If we want to speak to the motivators and inspirators, we want to speak to them in what is exciting for them. If we want to speak to the people that are steady and conscientious, we want to speak in their way, they're team players. And if we want to get the goal-oriented folks engaged, we need to speak in their language. Now, when you're doing a presentation, you have everyone there. So you've got to appeal to all styles, all types. The issue is once you learn this about yourself, you can then adjust if you're having a conflict with some groups or some individuals, and you can say, well, maybe I need to tweak this a little bit and dial it back. And generally what it is you're overusing your style when there's a conflict. You're showing up and your magic dust is overshadowing their magic dust. Because again, no one is better than anyone else. The issue is, are you letting their magic dust shine? And the companies that are having the least turnover are companies that are allowing the magic dust of each person to shine. Not only their own, but everyone else. This is really an important one. I'm not going to spend too much time on each one because we're closing the thing down at 12 tonight. We'll be over soon, but I don't have time to go through every single point, but we will touch and glance on. Accountability is crucial. And that was my weakest area, how to hold myself and other people accountable. It creates integrity issues. It creates communication issues. It creates team issues, trust issues. So again, nobody's doing anything on purpose. The issue is how do you uncover whether it's happening or not? You could have an organizational assessment. You could do organizational surveys. You could also do 360s. The issue is those need to be done in a healthy, honoring, respectful way. And they need to really be facilitated properly, or else you get a mess in the organization if they're not done properly. But I highly recommend it so that you know whether or not you have an accountability issue. Honoring and embracing conflict. This is crucial. Has anyone read Patrick Lencioni's The 5 Behaviors of a Dysfunctional Team? Some of you have seen yes, some no. I highly recommend if you read anything, read that book. It's been around for about 20, 25 years. It's an oldie, but it's a classic. Why? Because it's still very accurate. Effective teams are able to give and receive feedback and have conflict in a healthy, honoring manner. If you cannot do that, you can't have a trusted organization. You have an organization that's hiding things. And so what you want to do is be able to increase that trust. And it is a process to do that. And step one is to be able to have honoring conflict with each other. Not everything is perfect, and you all know it. You all measure quality. You see the issues before anyone sees it. The issue is, can you, in a healthy, honoring way, give feedback to the people that need to hear it the most, where they're going to take the actions on it? That's not easy, because you have to have skills in terms of how you communicate, who you're communicating, timing of it, their readiness. How persistent are you? Are you going to only do it once, or are you going to do it 10 times? People say to me, I gave them feedback. I do coaching to some teams, and I'll always ask them, have you given them feedback? Oh yeah, I sent them a text. This text is the new thing. I said, that's not giving feedback in a healthy, honoring way. You have to sit down with them and go, I don't want to sit down. I'm afraid. I don't know how they're going to react. Have you guys heard this before? I don't know how they're going to react, and I'm afraid they're going to blow up. Well, you've got to get over it. Because if you don't get over it, other people aren't getting it over it. You all are the quality experts. So who has to start with? My view is it starts with quality. Perfect area to start in. Honoring, embracing conflict. There is a process called the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team. That's where we're certified. That's where you're undoing the dysfunctions. But I would read the book because they give you the process in the book. The issue is, if you have any questions, you can always call them. We can just chat through how would you start something like that there? How would you guys facilitate it? How would you make it happen? There's different instruments you could also take in terms of measuring your conflict skills. This one gets the most controversy. I don't know, every time I run it, it's called Thomas Kilman. It measures how much assertiveness you need to use and how much cooperativeness you need to use. And it gives you different scenarios and has you answer these scenarios. And it gives you feedback on whether or not you're using the right scenario at the appropriate time. And invariably, this one punches you in the head, okay? Because we're all not experts at handling conflict. And that's why leadership is a process, not an event. You need to build your leadership muscles. Well, building conflict muscles, like how much assertiveness am I going to use? How much cooperativeness? That doesn't come natural. That takes time. We all know it. Even in a family, we have major conflict. At least I do. I don't know about anybody else, but even in my family, we have conflict. The issue is, we have a saying, without conflict, there is no leadership. I want everybody to write that down. Without conflict, there is no leadership. What that is saying is that if you're everything's smooth and everything's going great, everything's always great, well, then you're not dealing with really everything that needs to be dealt with. Now, can it be healthy, honoring, and respectful? Yes. It could be beautiful, but they're going to understand that you have their best interest in heart. Okay? If you have the head, the heart, and the mind of every person together, you're going to be way ahead of the game, but they have to believe that. But this is, again, an example of a tool that you can measure whether or not you handle conflict properly. Here's that quote, without conflict, there is no leadership. And again, leaders empower themselves and others to go where they've never gone before. It has to start with us. If I don't do it, then my team's not going to do it. And I'll give an example of this. When the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team was created, my team said, we don't need that. We're executive coaches. I said, I was about to say, okay, but then I remember I don't hold people accountable. No, we're going to do it. And we're going to have Marilyn, one of our executive coaches, facilitate us. So we took it, Marilyn facilitated, and boy, did we have issues. Now, were we a good team? Yes. Were we a great team? No. Did we have to improve? And it proved that leadership is a process? Yes. And all the people that said we don't need it said, oh my God, I didn't realize we were holding all these things back. I didn't realize it. So you have to empower yourself to go where you've never gone before. And that means that you all may have to take the step first. And are you willing to take the first? This is the model that you'll read about in the 5 behaviors. The goal is to build trust, because trust is the foundation of every successful team. If it's solid and you're giving and receiving conflict in a healthy, honoring way, this trust is going to become so strong. Why? People are not going to feel like they're going to get beat in the head if they bring over a problem or if they bring up a problem. You're going to have commitment to each other. Why? Because 99.9% of the people care about everything they're doing. Everyone we interview, when we go in and interview teams, we find they really want to do the right thing. They really want to do well. So they'll commit if they know that everybody is working towards the same targets. They'll hold each other accountable. People will challenge each other. How can we get better at this? How can we make this process better? And ultimately, your results will improve. We've seen this over and over and over again. Study this model, read that book. I highly recommend it. It costs maybe $20 for the book. And then you can study how do you undo the 5 behaviors. How do we influence other people? Influencing starts with us. Now, some people are going to be a little bit more resistant. We all know, we've met people that it's harder. But again, it's building our leadership muscles. When you go to the gym and do deadlifts or push presses, how many of us have only done those once in our life? If you're going to do it once, your muscles aren't going to get stronger. They'll get stronger that one time. You got to do it 3 times a week. How many of us do conflict skills 3, 4, 5 times a week? It's massive. You have to put the work in. And it's not easy. It's a process, but it can be so much fun. It could be there are books, there's methods, there's coaches, there's people to talk to, there are people who put all kinds of things out on YouTube that are free content. You can listen to my free program. Leadership is a process, not an event. It's out there every Monday and Tuesday on AM and FM, but it's also on our website. So you can go print off free content and you can be able to influence others. Here's what's so fabulous. Authentic and long-lasting relationships. When you really work with people and you really care about each other, they last forever. And I go back into the years and years that I spent at EDS and American Express, and I have friends and relationships still. All of you, I guarantee what you remember most of those people that you work with. You might as well have the most authentic, long-lasting relationship with them. Get into the real details of what's happening on their personal basis, on their work basis. Know them as individuals, as human beings, and how can you magnify their magic dust? How can they help you magnify yours? I guarantee that's the thing you're going to remember forever. Feedback. How to give feedback, how to receive feedback. It's not easy. Again, it's a muscle. I became defensive about 3 years after I got feedback that I didn't hold people accountable. I did another 360, and I was sitting down with the coach, and the coach said, Mike, you've made great progress, but still coming up. I said, they just don't get it. He goes, I think you're becoming a little bit defensive. No, I'm not. I bit his head off, right? And then I finally stepped back and he's right. I was too defensive. So how do you receive feedback? That's muscles also. How do you let go of ego and let go and be able to receive feedback and not judge the person or whoever's giving it to you that they're wrong, they're bad? Feedback is for you. It's not even for them, okay? It's for you. And it's a gift. I wouldn't have ended up in this field if I hadn't gotten it. So that's a whole other story. But the issue is, how do you give feedback that feeds your effectiveness? Inspiration. I guarantee when you inspire somebody, they're going to have so much energy. And they're going to feed off of your energy. You're helping them empower themselves to put on before. They're going to help others do that. And it's contagious. The issue is starting today with your vision, your mission, your goals, starting today with some self-awareness, starting today to handle a conflict that's been brewing in a healthy, honoring, respectful way. We all have one, and I encourage you to attack it. And the last point is, some people say the most important. I don't know. I always get confused on what is the most important. And every week on the radio show, I say, what's the most important? I don't know, because everyone brings up something different. But continual leadership learning, if you look at the top of the compass, continual leadership learning, continual learning is the most important. Why? Because it starts a process of discovery. It starts you working on all these 12 areas. If you just started that and read that, what's continual learning for me? And read one book, fine. There are thousands and thousands of leadership books out there. Pick one. If you just went to one program, pick one. Work with a coach. I've worked with a coach now since the 90s. Not the same coach, because there's different things. I'm writing another book right now, so I have an author coach that's helping. She's an executive coach, and she's helping me to piece the book together. But the point is, find who's going to help you most achieve the goals and objectives that you want to achieve in your career. I encourage you to rate yourself. And if you have any questions, you can call me and we can chat through it. What did you rate? Why? And I'll chat through it. My number's listed, I think, on this form, but if it's not, it's on my website, PeopleTek Coaching. It's on the bottom of the form. And I'm glad to answer any questions for any of you. And I thank you so much for your attention. And I hope that you got something great. and we'll take it.
Are there any questions for Mike? Well, Mike, I have a question. I guess
Sure.
you said that there's no, can you maybe explain a little bit more about that quote? You know, there's no leadership without conflict, or
Without conflict, there is no leadership.
I had it back.
Okay, let's talk about that. Most of the time, people want comfort. And sometimes we get so comfortable, we waited to going to a gym. You could easily turn your alarm clock off at 6 in the morning when you go to the gym, right? And turn it off, go back to sleep, and you missed it. Well, it's the same thing with some things that brew for yourself. Like, what's my career about? What do I want to do for my career? Where do I want to take it? How do I want to empower myself to do uncomfortable things? How do I want to get through obstacles that are in my way? Do I want to go through those obstacles and just do it? Or am I going around them, or are fears paralyzing me from addressing that conflict? So it's a statement that's saying if you're not having some uncomfort, it doesn't mean that a bad thing is happening. You just feel the uncomfort, but you go through it. So you feel, if you're not feeling a conflict in yourself to do it, then you're probably not pushing yourself far enough. Who wants to run to the gym every morning or every afternoon and do deadlifts or push presses? I don't know many people. You love it. That's awesome. If you love it, even better. And you know what's weird about it? When you start doing this work, you love it more. When you start studying about how am I going to address this conflict with so-and-so, how am I going to empower myself to create my vision, my mission, my goals, and live it? How am I going to write the book that I've always wanted to write that I haven't written? How do I take my career to where I haven't taken it yet? How do I apply for that job that I've wanted for years? What is it that I need to do to prepare myself for that? And what is it I need to maybe address in terms of some coworkers that have been getting in the way of great quality? If you don't have that conflict, it's never going to get solved. Now, some people feel it should be radical. I'm not one of those. Okay, some people feel a shock to the system. Sometimes I argue with my son about that. We don't need any shocks. It's okay to have just a little conflict. The issue is if you're having none, you might be overusing a strength, Phil. Is this making sense? The strength could be that you want peace so much that you're not addressing something that needs to be. And if your decision is to do that, and you talk about it, and you get, input that's not your own, then you're okay. But it generally, we're doing that, and we don't need to be. That's a great question. Again, thank you, everyone. Enjoy.